Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet.
I'm Richard.
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth
Happy
Day.
Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
With Maya Farm.
Maya.
Maya's Farm?
Right.
Maya's Farm.
Very
Maya.
special
Maya.
guest.
Very
Thank you.
The
special.
one and only Maya Daly of Maya's Farm.
This show has been a long time coming, right?
Yes.
Haven't you known each other
Yes.
for years?
Oh
And
my gosh, years.
She's
I've-
so sustainable that it was a great fit, but still somehow it hasn't happened
I
until
know.
now. So
And every
better
time
late than never.
I've been to your dinners with Sam Pillsbury. You have your organic farm with all the fruits and vegetables and eggs and chickens and all that. And out there, tell us about that. Tell us about
We've
that.
always said, hey, we need to come together and do a podcast. So here we are
Here
on
we are
Earth
on
Day,
Earth
making
Day.
it happen.
5 years
More
later.
appropriate.
Finally, right, exactly. I can't believe it. I mean, it's
Cheers.
real now.
Cheers.
Salud.
Yay.
Cheers.
We're celebrating
Great
Earth
to
Days
see
every
you.
day. Earth Days every day. Woo.
I guess
Earth Days every day.
should've
Earth
done
Day
with it.
is every day for this farm girl.
Well,
That's
for-
right.
I mean,
Can I read this little
yes, please.
introduction?
Please.
There's a man named Zach Bush, MD, who I've been following. He is remarkable. You've heard of him.
Yes, of
This
course.
guy is a trained MD and scientist and researcher, and
Mhm.
he's gone way off the conventional MD track, and he's really studied the nature,
Okay.
evolution of microbes. So here's a great thing he wrote. I just got this email today on Earth Day. It's time we found a new mirror to look into. The only one I found globally that works for every person of every socioeconomic class, every race and creed is nature. Nature is the only place where we'll be seen for the beauty of which we could be rather than the trauma for which we've lived. Nature is unchanged in her capacity to birth and create, and by our attitude or awareness of her. She's constantly asking us back into a relationship so that the playfulness of creativity and creation can flow through our own kindness. We have so much opportunity to become something we have not been before. But to get there, we are going to have to look beyond a single day that we would call Earth Day and start to come to terms with the fact that we are all of the earth. We are a transmutation of the elements of the soils, the air, and the waters of this earth that self-organized within the womb of our mothers to become the human that we are. If we come to terms with the fact that we are never separated from the nature within us, the nature around us, we may finally look into the correct mirror to see the beauty and potential of ourselves. The earth is not yearning for us to look to her. I believe that nature is yearning to see herself in us. If she had no care for that, we likely would not exist. But here we are, the most sentient and intelligent beings that have ever been brought forth from the soils of the earth, from the microbiome that lives within us and around us, and from the shared intelligence of thousands of species that collaborate to create the information stream into your mind that would create the opportunity for curiosity and the creativity that would come out of that curiosity and the productivity that would be aligned and productive within the constructs of nature. We are the living natural law. We are the system of biology iterated again and again on this planet until we appear. It is not in our abstract belief that we have become separate from this source of life within this earth, that we have become destructive and extractive elements of nature. On this Earth Day, may we remember to be seen by this earth, that we might recalibrate, retune, and become the humankind that we are capable of being.
Every day's Earth Day.
Hallelujah.
Woo!
Earth
Here's
Day
to
is
that.
every day.
Isn't that profound? That's some profound
That is-
shit right
it's
there, I'll
Richard,
tell you.
That was beautiful.
It was absolutely
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh, I've got chills.
Right?
It's
incredible.
very
Yeah.
powerful.
So
And this
powerful.
comes from, a guy who's an MD and a scientist and researcher, but also connected with Gaia. I use the word Gaia. Tell us about the word Gaia. Isn't it wonderful?
Gaia,
Yeah.
help me out there, Richard.
Gaia.
Gaia is
Mother
the
Nature.
life force.
It's the life force. It's
all of
Mother
us.
Nature.
Yes.
Would you say Mother Nature? Yeah, Mother
It's
Nature.
the
Gaia.
concept of the
Nature.
earth as an entity, as a living entity.
But something that
So-
I want to really emphasize during this show today is we really need to spread the awareness every day And for some reason, you know, I said to several
What are
people
you
today
saying?
that it was Earth Day,
What are you saying?
and they said, and they said, it is? Many
Yeah.
people didn't even know it was Earth Day.
Yeah.
And then a few people said, well, what does that really mean? And I said, well, there were thousands of people that went to go pick up trash.
I did see that too.
Thousands and
Right.
thousands. I did it today, but you know, we pretty much do it every day. If we see trash, we pick it up. I know my dance girls, when we do our walking and we see trash, we pick it up. But arranging organized trash pickups, that's so good for the environment, and also planting trees.
Right.
I know you did a bunch of planting.
Yeah, we did.
What'd you
We
do?
were really excited that we planted 75 fruit trees last April on
Wonderful.
the farm, with the hopes to create
75.
an agro sort of forest
Yeah.
climate on part of the farm.
Yeah.
Help with shade, help with environmental, carbon.
Well, that's one of the best ways you can help the planet is planting a tree.
Right.
In fact, today on our hike,
Yeah, we
We-
ran into a park ranger who
Mhm.
told us they just planted 100 trees
At Papago.
in Papago Park.
Oh, good.
yes,
Yeah.
he said
Good.
There
100
were
trees.
That's great.
75
On Friday.
willows and 25 ironwood trees.
And they did that for Earth Day, but they did it in advance.
They did it last Friday.
Mhm.
In celebration of
Yeah,
Earth Day.
yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there
So-
are many observations of these concepts on Earth Day. The point is to have this consciousness of what he's talking about, what I just read,
That was-
every day.
That was fantastic.
You know,
I mean, one of the things that I think has happened across the world, the globe, across many people, is we've lost touch with that very essence
Yes.
of who we are and that connectivity to the land and to
Mother Nature.
is so important. Trying to teach that again to kids is
it's-
so
And we applaud you because that's what
valuable.
you're
Crucial.
doing.
I'm trying.
Crucial.
I'm hoping
Maya-
that I'm making a dent a
Mhm.
little bit, but
You go to the
Nature.
elementary school and you're teaching gardening and cooking
Correct.
with the garden, and so
Correct.
that's just so organic.
right. And
I love
so
it.
so getting kids back to the earth or just out into nature again is
Hmm.
such a little
Yeah,
ask,
yeah.
but it is such a big mission. I mean,
Well,
it
I feel very
has-
fortunate because I think Chet and Rachel, my kids, they were really exposed to a lot of hiking and nature and the
A
ocean
lot
and
of kids are.
and,
you know.
and I mean all the time. I mean
I've
daily.
seen a couple of documentaries where they've
Mhm.
taken inner city kids
Hmm.
out into nature, and just you makes you cry. The looks on these kids' faces,
Hmm.
the joy that just is there. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, they're reacting to. I mean, it's mind blowing.
I was on the hike not today, but on a hike yesterday, and I go to this area where there's a lot of a big quartz formation, and I don't want to say where I am because I don't like people going on my hike. It's my hike,
It's your secret
but anyway,
spot.
it's my secret spot.
It's on.
And so
it's
all
on
of a
public
sudden-
land. Hello.
Okay.
All of a sudden there was a hummingbird. All of a sudden there was a hummingbird that was literally just it like stopped and it,
Covering.
yes, and it was maybe 6 feet away from me, and it stopped and looked at me. It must have been there for like a minute, and then it was during my prayers, and I thought, wow, that is going to bring me
It
good
was
luck.
wondering if your sunglasses are flowers.
There you go.
Or there's
funny.
some nectar in there.
That's
Check
funny.
this
And then
out.
Or maybe your lipstick.
it
It
flew
probably
away.
was like
It flew away, and
their
it came
food
back.
source.
It
And
came back.
Did it hover like stay still?
Yeah. Oh,
and-
it was just in one
like,
spot,
right.
just staring at me, and it was just incredible. And I really I believe that they bring love, happiness, joy. If you look at the symbolic, the symbolism of hummingbirds, I believe in that.
I saw a really interesting quote the other day. It was, "We are the universe's way to experience itself."
Yes.
And that's in a
Yes.
lot of different religions. Like in Christianity, there's like the thought that the Holy Spirit is within everybody, and a lot of other religions have a similar concept to that, like teaching that there's like basically a piece of this divine spirit in everybody. And I think that can be felt when you're in nature and you just feel like such a connection, and you feel like, I don't even know what the right word is, like almost like at home, or like a soothing nature when you're just in nature, like looking at a good view of from a mountaintop or like in the woods or something like that. It's such a unique feeling that gives you like a sense of peace that you don't get anywhere else. It's such a 1 out of 1 type of feeling when you're like in nature immersing yourself.
Oh, and
like
also
that.
when you take the time to enjoy the sunrise or the
I
sunset.
was just gonna say.
I mean, that's something that's just it doesn't cost anything, and it brings so much joy.
So that's one of the things that I feel really blessed as a farmer, because I see the sunrise, the sunset, the moon. I see the clouds. I see different colors out there in the morning and the evening. It's something that I'm very in tune with.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that when working with people that I'm going to say have nature deficit syndrome is just teaching them again to be aware of the natural surroundings in a way that makes those little connections, and as those little connections start to come back, then all of a sudden you're grounded in nature again, which is really, really important for our souls. It's important for our humanity again, I believe.
Absolutely.
And without being connected to nature, we have destroyed the very essence that we have cometh from in some ways.
Very true.
How did you get started with this? I mean, can you give us, Maya, your background? Like, were you farming when you were 5, and your parents were, you were out there with a green thumb, and you're creating your salad in your backyard? I mean,
no.
Damn, it's a bummer we're gonna shift off that topic, but I guess you already asked that question. So
Yeah.
Like, how did I get connected? I think I was born connected on some level. I've always had these, like, I'm very deep in some ways.
yes.
And it's like, I remember as a child, I had this bedroom window looking up at the stars as I fell asleep every night, right? And I wondered who we are and what we were here for, and there was more than just what was present and around me. And I think that connection sort of has stayed with me all my life, because I've always been moved or pushed into places where I am really rooted and grounded in the natural world. So that, as a young adult, I ended up on sailboats doing whale watching and connected to the ocean.
Yeah.
I was, then I landed in, the mountains doing fly fishing with trout up in northern Arizona. So I've always had these, it's sort of like I've been led down the path of the natural world constantly, always. So I'm connected, and I wonder how come some people aren't connected.
Well, you weren't born in a big city, were you? Did you live a childhood in a big city at all?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I did.
did.
I was
But still,
born
yeah.
in Phoenix, but
Yeah.
I grew up outside of New York City. So I grew up
That's
in a
right, I
cement
forgot
jungle.
that.
My dad
Yes,
was in women's
yes.
manufacturing and apparel.
So maybe you are
I
kind of
was-
rebelling against where you were raised then.
Excuse me?
You're kind of rebelling against where you're raised then by wanting to get into nature so much.
Oh, it was terrible. I
Yeah.
was like in the cement. It was busy.
I've always
it
wondered
was
how people live
stimulating,
there.
It was,
I've always
and
wondered.
I remember just getting out of like the
Millions of
subways
people
and stuff,
do.
and the first thing I'd have to do is like look up, look at the sky, get connected, because I was racing through this.
So from what year, from like how many years were you living there?
I 3rd grade through high school.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so you
so I
were a
grew
city
up-
girl.
Yeah, I'm a city girl. You can call me a Jersey girl if you want.
Hey,
Okay.
she's the
Jersey girl.
And then how did from there what happened next?
Well, I graduated high school and I came back out west, where my soul has always been.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
romped, I hiked, I went from Phoenix to Flagstaff to Santa Fe, back again to San Diego, and I just did, the Southwest wild child kind of stuff. And then landed, right, I did. I landed in Santa Fe and ended up making Santa Fe home for many years.
Right.
And in that space, that was really grounding for me too, because of the culture of the Hispanic the native and the white man there was sort of this wonderful blend.
And the arts, they're very big
and
in
the
the arts. I love the arts.
music,
Mhm.
the arts, the
The
food.
food.
It was just sort of a
Wow.
fantastic.
Were you gardening
experience.
there in Santa Fe?
I did.
You
I
did? Okay.
You
That
bet.
was
Wow.
how
So,
it was really
that's
started.
where it
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
Okay.
So the garden farming part of my life started when I was pregnant with my first child.
Oh, I didn't know you had
And
children.
We decided that I
Well, she
had
has
to
children.
figure out
She's an
how to
earth
have
mother.
income and stay at home. So I started planting a garden. And I was in the restaurant business prior, doing all this kind of stuff with wine and food, and made a choice to stay home. And so
In Santa
it was
Fe?
yeah, in Santa
Okay,
Fe.
in
So
Santa
it was
Fe.
a natural connection to the chefs for me to like grow food and flowers and herbs and then be able to sell them to the restaurants in Santa Fe.
Smart.
Yeah, and so I did that for a while, and then we decided Santa Fe priced us out of the market. We came to Phoenix.
And that's where you found your farm here.
Yeah, I took
Mhm.
time off to raise my kids for a while. Didn't do much.
How many
banking.
kids?
I have two,
Two. Okay. Boy, girl.
boy and girl, 27 and 31.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had
And
my
do they
first
still live here?
grandchild. Actually,
right.
one lives in Missouri, the other's in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
they're both gone out of the valley.
And they're
right
both married,
now. No, they're both single. And
but you have a grandkid. That's
yeah, I
great.
have a grandkid. Yeah.
Aw,
Beautiful. It's
I
oh my
love
god,
it.
it's like the best thing in the whole world. Honestly.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make sure she's rooted in the earth by
Aw.
always sending her earthy toys or wooden kinds of stuff so that she
Yeah.
stays grounded.
I love it. So how did your farm start off this as big as it is? Like, how many acres are you at now?
Absolutely not. It started out very small in a backyard situation out in Gilbert, and I jumped from backyard garden to another friend's farm who gave me a 1/4 acre to grow on. Then we jumped into the farm at South Mountain,
Right.
which
When I
was
first met you,
a
that's where
quarter,
you were.
and then I
Yeah.
jumped into 3.5 acres. So we're small.
Wow, that's a big piece of land still.
It's a
It
big
is.
piece of
It
land.
is big. It's big when you're out
Most
there.
of
But
it's
it's
planted.
big, but it's little. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a nice fit for pushing product and growing, but it is also a lot of work for. Yeah, it's a
Well, I have a
lot.
question. How many people work for
Right.
you?
Right now, I've taken the year off,
Mhm.
and so we have nobody except
You're doing it all
myself and
yourself.
my old farm manager, who we get out and we do stuff together.
Okay.
We're still growing things. We're not productive.
What
And so
are
the
you
land
growing?
is rusting.
Yeah, the land's
Right
resting.
now we
It's
have
regenerating.
regenerating, exactly. And so when I think of regeneration, I think of rusting. And so I needed to regenerate,
Exactly.
and the land
Mhm.
did. So it's
Mhm.
been it's been really hard for me to just like let go of it because I'm so used to being out there tending to it. But the magic is that it's taking care of itself. It's
Oh,
How
wow.
about that?
some cover
Sounds like you
How
crop.
about
enjoy
that?
like the habit and like the ritual of it. Then you kind of miss it when that goes away.
Oh yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit, but it's been also nice to see what the land can do without my interference, which means there's tons of natural species coming back.
Such as?
There's grasses. There's also, because we
Mhm.
planted for a long time there's all kinds of flowers and lettuce seeds and things just sort of randomly
What type of
popping
grass?
up. Yeah.
The
What about
disco
sunflowers?
grass.
Sunflowers are happening, yep. And so that it's sort of nice to be able to let go of it,
Yeah.
let it rest and breathe, and then also back up and look at what the next steps might be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you
it's
planted
gonna-
a lot of trees, so do we have any
the
fruits
trees
from
are
that?
there. The trees are growing and they're
Okay.
beautiful. I actually have peaches on some of them first year. And there's
Yay!
so
Peach
it's pretty
pie?
exciting.
Now, there's also the fact that the farm that you've been farming, you know, so dedicatedly for years now, is now a protected,
It is.
right? Tell us about
It
that.
is.
Oh, tell me.
So that with a partnership between the owner of the land, Arizona Land Trust and the city of Phoenix, we were able to put a conservation easement
Yeah.
on the farm, which keeps it protected from development. That's wonderful.
That's great.
Because it's a big chunk of land in the middle of the city
Oh,
that
that would be,
was
that would
permanently
be, that would be,
saved.
that would be
It can
developed
stay
like that.
fallow.
I mean,
Oh
It
my
doesn't,
gosh.
it doesn't have to be farmed. It can stay fallow, which means
Yeah.
the mosquitoes would come back and the birds would come back. And,
So it's never going to be developed.
it's never gonna be developed.
That's
And we're
fantastic.
hoping we can do that to another piece of land across the street from it.
Yeah.
We're still,
Yeah.
Oh,
And
great.
we're
there-
still
there
creating that.
there
I
are
keep
pro-
envisioning that.
There are other programs like this, and if I'm not mistaken, this was started by the federal government and is in association or something, in some way, or,
I'm not sure where or how
yeah,
conservation easement started. The whole reason they do it is to make the land more affordable for the farmer to buy.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
so it allows a chunk of money to be pulled off for the development rights. It decreases the value of the land moving forward, but it also then decreases enough that actually farmers can afford to buy
yeah.
it.
I love it. Because we need our farmers. What will we do without farmers?
Well, there's been this
What?
huge
Right, but
movement.
we're not
do.
gonna eat.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like bees. What are we gonna do without bees?
been
We're
a
not gonna have
huge
food.
We're gonna die.
Thank you. It's so important.
Right, I mean, it's sort of that connection. You can't.
And it's so important that it's organic, that you're not using toxins and
Correct.
poisons and corrupting that land.
Right.
Well,
How do you farm without the pesticides?
How do you farm without pesticides?
What do you use, ladybugs?
Well, you just learn to intercrop, and so
I don't know
so
what that
if you
means.
think of this,
Intercrop.
diseases
Mhm.
are self-specific. Plants and insects are plant-specific. So,
Okay.
in other words, certain bugs will attack some plants, certain bugs will benefit some plants. So they're plant specific. So when you intercrop, what you do is you alleviate the mass destruction of one insect devastating the whole place.
Right,
Because what you've done is you've introduced what I term biodiversity.
Yep.
And biodiversity in its essence creates a balance,
exactly.
and that balance creates harmony, which means that you don't need to use as many chemicals, or you don't need to use them at all.
So this is why it's so much better to like acquire produce from a small farm like that.
Yes.
Because farming like that and having that biodiversity is probably not possible if you're doing farming at a large scale.
Well, yeah, and there's
We
been,
want large-scale farmers
Yeah,
to
but we want-
start practicing some of that thinking and some
Yeah,
of that.
oh well, it's just
Exactly.
a reflection on how mass producing stuff makes the quality go down, and
Well,
it makes
ironically,
you require things like pesticides.
the,
Right.
the,
Right.
Because
It
Right,
does.
exactly.
basically
Well,
not
and
doing
it's
things
also-
properly.
It's also, we've been fed a line that you can't farm regeneratively or organically and make money. You
That's
have to
total
use
bullshit.
these chemicals, you have to use
this
these
is,
pesticides,
again,
you have to use these
Yeah.
seeds, and that is it's a lie. Honestly,
Yay.
it's a lie.
Okay,
It's a
this is
total
so
lie.
important.
This, it's
We
a
should
lie.
take this part
And so what
Mhm.
what we've done is we've said we can only mass produce food if we use X, Y, and Z, and that's not true. What we're finding out is if we actually practice regenerative organic soil methods, that we are increasing the biodiversity of the soil, thus we're less likely to use or have to use.
I guess
Yeah.
the main point I was trying to make though is just that mass producing stuff generally leads to the quality going down through a
Well,
variety of factors.
Right.
But
That's why it's always
no,
better
no,
to support
I'm a little
local. You're going to
confused
get
though.
better quality with local. You're going to get,
Yeah.
and it's more sustainable to support local. Like,
But I have a question. So,
Economically, it's sustainable too.
so can you dumb it down for me then? So you're planting. Explain to me how specific. Be specific, like with what you're planting, and you have to plant another plant that so that you don't have bugs eating everything. Well, what are you doing to do that? Are you planting like?
Okay, so rather than monocrop, which is planting one crop,
Okay.
okay, you're going to multi-crop. So what you're doing is
Mhm.
you're planting lettuces and beets and flowers and herbs and roots all
Mhm.
on the same little space.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're not just putting beets everywhere.
Yeah, exactly, or corn everywhere.
Okay.
So that what happens is you create that diversity of plant life actually creates biodiversity, and actually each one of those crops also requires a different kind of nutrient.
Okay.
So it's a little harder to farm in some ways because you have to understand how to where to replant and not plant some things so that you're not taking all the same stuff out of the soil all the time. So in other words, you learn to interplant or intercrop for
And that'll
nutrient
keep bugs away?
density.
Will that keep bugs away?
Yes, of course.
Oh,
Because
okay,
when you keep your plants
Mm-hmm.
healthy and strong from the soil up, then they're less likely to succumb to diseases.
Okay.
The other
Exactly.
thing is
And
different plants attract different insects. So in that you're creating diversity, and diversity is what creates the harmony in nature. The
Ooh, I love that.
biodiversity is so important. It's sort of like when you think about our guts too. You know, our stomachs are full of microbes
The
and
microbiome, yeah.
biome, and it's important to keep your guts in a diverse state so that you're healthy, right? Your gut is basically
True.
the health of your body. Well, the soil is very interconnected in my mind to our guts. So you keep the soil healthy, the plants are healthy, our guts are healthy, right? It sort of
Yes.
turns
Love
out.
it.
Yes, it's true. And unfortunately, what we've done all over the world in many places, you know, with to keep the chemical industry alive and thriving, is
Didn't
we
even get
destroyed
me
the
started.
soil. Literally destroyed the soil, so that we just have to keep. And so what happens is that the nutrients in those plants are practically non-existent. They're at a very low level than when you farm naturally.
The nutrient density of our food has definitely decreased
Yeah.
with the introduction
Yeah.
of the green
Yeah.
movement, which is the
Yeah.
chemical movement.
But not
And
yours.
what happens
Not
to
mine. No.
what happens?
Just talking about like a nationwide trend in the U.S.
Okay.
It's a worldwide trend.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, what we did is
I've heard that the usage of Roundup is like not common in a lot of other countries.
Oh, it's very
Not
common
common.
in India and all the places where, you know, agri-farming is a big thing. It is more than common. It's, yeah, and that's the thing.
So-
So historically, if you look at history, cultures where the topsoil has been depleted to the point where it's non-existent, guess what? Those cultures collapse. Done. And that's where we're headed right
that's
now.
where we're headed, for sure. So I think that's a very important thing to understand, that you're only as healthy as your soil as a country.
True.
And that needs to be retaught and
Repeat that.
and spoken out
Repeat
loud.
that. You're
Yeah.
only as healthy as the soil.
Right.
Bingo.
And they've been allowed to
That's
use these like
profound.
experimental chemicals and pesticides and just slowly pump them into the environment and into the soil for like what, a quick buck? It's so confusing why they would just ignore thousands of years of farming practices to start using chemicals that are basically experimental.
So what happened with the chemicals is after the wars, they had a bunch of chemicals
Yeah.
left over and they couldn't figure out what to do
Yep.
with them. And so they created a pesticide and fertilizer industry based on a lot of the chemicals that were in the
Monsanto.
war. Right. And so what happens is it's a vicious cycle. It's war against the land, basically. And it's a vicious cycle because we're lighting some people's pockets green. You've got the chemical companies in bed with the pharmaceutical companies who are in bed with the doctors. I mean, on some level.
In the food
I mean,
industry.
and I'm
But
not
I'm
gonna say
really-
indiv-
It's Earth Day here today, and this is going to air tomorrow, and everybody knows all that. What I want to know is
actually.
what I want to know, and what
Okay.
our listeners want to know is what can we all do? What are some solutions? What are the solutions for our farming, for
Okay.
our crops, for our how can we make things more organic?
Well, right off the bat,
mhm.
don't dump stuff in your yard that's gonna make the soil or dirt worse. Like,
See,
I know
that's a
some
great
people
example.
who will just dump any random thing into their backyard. It's like, no, that ground still matters. It might not be a farm right now, but
Mhm.
if everybody's dumping toxic stuff into the ground and it gets into the groundwater, that's terrible. So I feel like people could be more careful about that.
And then using
I would say that using non-toxic stuff, we were just talking about Roundup, well, use vinegar instead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a solution.
thank you. So there we go. So
that
vinegar
don't use Roundup, use vinegar.
and vinegar will
And
do
vinegar
the same
can
thing.
work. Yeah, it might take a little more effort and it won't, it won't react as quickly, but it's safer. My sister got rid of all her poison ivy in her yard using vinegar.
Wow.
So, I
See, that's
mean,
incredible. Okay.
Those are the kinds of things that we have, not been taught that needs to be retaught. Is
Mhm.
what are our natural remedies as opposed to chemical remedies? Plant trees.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Plant
there's
trees, that's a
some
wood
huge
chips on
one.
your front
Yeah,
yards.
huge.
I mean,
Oh, say that. What's that?
wood chips on your front yards, like create that biomass again, build it back up.
So the wood chips.
Are they-
Explain to the listeners what the wood chips do, because I have a friend and a couple friends that just have done that recently, and then some neighbors. What do the wood chips do?
Wood chips are a great way to prevent water loss.
Okay.
It's a great way to, we call it mulch.
Mm-hmm.
And that mulch, what happens is with heat and water on top of it, they break down and create this fine, beautiful matter underneath. So you just sort of let the earth, sort of like what the forest does.
Mm-hmm.
When a tree falls
Sure.
and the leaves fall.
Yeah.
And it sort of just is a natural way to rebuild and augment the topsoil.
So beyond vinegar, what other substances, like natural substances, do you have that are, natural hacks like that? Do you have any other recommendations
Let
to
me
use?
think about that one. I'm not a real big hack person. I sort of
Well, that was a good
err on
one.
the side of nothing.
But the vinegar
That's
idea
my
was a good
personal-
idea.
No, vinegar was a great idea, and then the mulch is a great idea.
Yeah, the mulch is fantastic because you just let it sit there. I mean, and it does its own.
It's almost like
it does its own
it's almost
thing.
like composting. Mulch.
I was just going to ask, what about composting? Is that important for us all to do that?
Composting is important too. You bet. I mean, you
Mhm.
can eliminate your food waste by putting it into the compost pile. You can actually, if you really want to do zero waste, you can, really focus on recycling your plastic, your cans, your glass, your paper, your cardboard, and then your food scraps go into your compost. You can eliminate a lot of what goes to the dump.
Oh, and one thing
Love
that's
that.
massive too is don't just plant a tree that's gonna do well in the desert with just a little bit of water, because
Mhm.
we are in such a water crisis in the Southwest right now. It's wild. More politicians are not talking about it. Like, they should literally be limiting the number of people that are moving into the region, because we're getting like that close to the margin with the water usage. It's crazy.
How do you feel about this, Maya?
How do I feel about it? Well, I think I understand that
Mhm.
the farming industry is actually the biggest target right now for
Mhm.
reduction of water use. I think Arizona farmers have a mandate that they need to reduce their water consumption by something like 25%.
Which is
Is
huge.
that possible?
It is, but they have to rethink, relearn, and
Exactly.
start to practice some of these regenerative techniques.
Not like the mulch one?
like
regenerative.
mulching, but how what they intercrop with. We in the
Mhm.
desert tend to use a lot of high water.
Well, for instance,
Like-
down in Cochise County,
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia has purchased acres and acres of land to grow alfalfa, which is a very water-heavy plant,
Mhm.
and then they ship it back to Saudi Arabia.
It's so
That's not-
inefficient.
That's not exactly.
The alfalfa is a heavy user. Lettuce is a heavy user. Cotton is a heavy user.
So what is not, like citrus maybe? Does citrus need a lot of
There,
water?
I had the blessing of attending this really wonderful water conference at the
Mhm.
Biosphere,
Cool.
and there's all sorts of concepts out there to figure out how to save water.
Well, and then another thing is that they should start talking about is they need to start building like desalination plants so that California has another source of water beyond the Colorado River, because it's like terrifying how many millions of people are dependent on that river, and other states take water from it further up. So if
Mhm.
the population in those states goes up and they start taking more water, it's a big crisis that's going to be in the next like decade or two. And
it's a huge crisis.
and people starting to conserve will basically make the crisis a lot less severe.
Okay, so let's all talk about ways that we can conserve. I mean, this sounds really weird. People laugh at me when I do it, but I brush my teeth.
And you don't run the water.
No, I do it.
Yeah.
Actually, I
Little
do it.
things like- yeah.
Hold on, let me
Yeah.
finish saying it.
You have
I do it right above I'm in my kitchen. I wet my toothbrush and turn the water off, and then I brush my teeth the whole time, no water,
Right.
spit into the trash can, because then that also makes my into my kitchen. No, it's true. I spit all my toothpaste into the trash can. Hey, if you don't want to date me because you don't like that, that's too bad. And so I don't turn the water back on till I rinse my mouth out. And so also all that toothpaste isn't going down my drain, and which clogs up your sink. I learned from the plumber a long time ago.
Toothpaste?
So yeah, toothpaste clogs, and then you have to have another visit from the plumber. So I go straight into the trash can, and then I
Well,
just rinse
even
my mouth
more
out.
so about it clogging is about all those chemicals are going to end up probably back in the water supply, because most water ends up just getting dumped into the oceans. Or
Well, because once you clog your drain, then you have to use chemicals to unclog it. So anyway, I think that's
right.
an
It's a
efficient way. Yeah.
never-ending
When the plumber comes
chemical,
It is.
Yeah.
chemical
It's a vicious
situation that
circle.
we
So-
have become reliant on,
Mhm.
and it's just a matter of rethinking, refocusing, and re-educating ourselves about things that are less. You know, my daughter's like, "Mom, just put your bags in your car." So you don't have to use bags at the grocery store. That's one really easy thing. I have
True.
all these bags. I bring them home, I hang them on the hook, and I forget to put them in the back of my car. So I have to like
Oh,
go
okay.
get bags.
I
at
got
the
a
grocery
trunk full
store.
of bags.
So
I use them.
those are things. Those are little,
Little things,
that
which are a
I
big
know
deal.
in my head, but I have
Yeah.
to reprogram myself. And reprogramming is sometimes a lot of work. And I
Mhm.
feel so bad. I'm like, dang, those bags are hanging in my hook. I just need to take them with me.
Well, another way to conserve is when you know you're going somewhere. Everybody doesn't need to take 3 Ubers. You're going to the same spot. Let's all drive together,
Right.
right?
that's
a good
saving
way.
gas, not water, but that
Well, it's
still
saving
is
everything.
conserving.
It's
yes.
it's conserving on the cars, on the exhaust, on there's so many ways it's conserving. So that's a huge one. Well, same thing when I take a shower, I turn the water off while I have the shampoo in my hair, and
I'm not that good yet.
I'm really good about it. I'm really good
You
about
know,
it. I turn the water off.
I solved that by I only take a shower once a month, whether I need it or not, and that works for me.
No showers every day, but I only wash my hair once a week. So yeah. So those are just some ways. Chet, tell us some ways that you are conserving. Do you stop and pick trash up, or are you carpooling? Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, I think carpooling is huge. I definitely try to walk whenever I can. Like if I'm just going somewhere that's like a mile or 2 or less, then I'll try to walk. I'll have friends that like will make fun of me. They'll be like, "You're gonna walk a mile right now?" I'll be like, "Yeah, like on 1 mile, that's like 12
Right,
minutes,
it's better
like,
for
come
your
on.
health,
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
so you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone
Except for
there.
the poison air that you're breathing while you're walking. Oh my God.
Okay, Richard, you're being a Debbie Downer about everything. I have to. Like,
No, he's
I have to
not.
be
No,
like-
he's not.
No, I'm not.
Um,
Listen,
Oh
the
my
good
gosh.
news is,
Yeah,
and
that's what I wanna talk about.
You'll agree with this. There is so much going on, research and planting trees, and I mean, there's you don't read about this stuff, but it's going on. I see it all the time. I read little articles. There's a huge amount going on all over the world. So that's the good news. Of course, the challenge is to be able to all this research that they're doing is to be able to actually use it, put things into place that really going to make the difference. So the
Well-
good news is there's so much going
Well,
on.
and people can start by planting in their own garden.
Yeah,
in their own
planting your
backyard, I
garden, composting in your own backyard, making sure you have trees.
Yeah, this is the thing.
How do you recommend that
Don't
people
have
get
10
started?
kids.
How do you recommend people get started on gardening? Because if you're watering grass or you're watering plants that you're not eating, isn't it way more sustainable to be watering things you're eating?
Oh, totally. I think so.
Yeah,
I don't
think
see any
it's
reason to
more
have a lawn
sustainable.
in your house in Phoenix.
Right.
So basically,
Xeriscaping is much more.
Right. So there's lots of resources in Phoenix
Mm-hmm.
right now for gardeners. There's Maricopa County Extension
love that.
Office, Maricopa County Extension Office, ASU's offering all kinds of food systems classes, and your community centers are also
Mhm.
available to look into classes. Your community colleges have a couple of different programs that will help to get you connected to the land and growing food and doing some production.
well, you
Another
teach
thing
it,
I would
it's
say,
amazing.
I was gonna say, I try to do is I try to like be as positive and like grateful as possible and spread that mentality, because it's really an important thing. If people are in the wrong mindset and they're not appreciative of the earth and the opportunities that their life gives them, then that's kind of squandered. And having that attitude, it's infectious. It rubs off on people, I think. Like if I am talking to a friend and I am just in a really positive place and complimenting them and lifting them up into a good mood, that's helping their day out, and that's gonna have a positive effect. And so I think it's not necessarily good for the environment in like a sustainable way, but in like more of like a basically spreading happiness and like trying to spread positivity. It's really important, because I think when people are in a better headspace, they're more likely to think about the earth and be appreciative of it.
It's so true.
It's like
No question.
it's definitely like
No
a
question.
trickle down effect.
100%.
That's a great point, and that probably one of the most important, because if
Yeah, when
aren't
people
happy,
get stuck in like a depressed or like just shut off mindset, then they're not going to care about their environment.
they're
It's
not
like
care
it's
about
a-
anything. That's
I
right.
think that's a really, really nice way to encourage us to become more positive. I also do think that the connectivity that Richard talked about at the beginning of the conversation about nature, I mean,
Oh yeah, that's great.
if we don't figure out how to reconnect our souls and ourselves with nature, we are doomed, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I think that human nature is
everything.
Is everything, and so that connectivity has to be re-fostered. And when you talk about the wonderment and going out into the world and seeing butterflies and seeing
Okay, so while we're on
the
this
Desert
hummingbirds.
tortoise.
wait, so while we're on this topic, do you think this is kind of like a controversial question, but do you think some of the like lengths that technology have gone to have almost gotten to a point of like being borderline nefarious? Because now that there's kids who are spending more of their day in virtual reality, that's like sad. That's dystopian, if you ask me. Especially when we still live in a world where there's tons of nature and
Well, that's why we
beautiful
have to spread
places
the
to go and
awareness.
explore.
Most parents, I didn't allow you guys to do games all the time. You guys had to go hiking. You had to be outside. You had to play. I didn't allow that, and you did the same
I
thing.
did the same thing, and they're like, "Mom, you don't let us do this," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "I can't."
Well, we had a really nice balance.
Yeah.
We had a really nice balance, like where we were able to play video
That's it.
games, but it
Balance.
wasn't all the time.
No, you
But
had
I feel like
an
nowadays
hour.
it's becoming more and more rampant of like where you hear about cases of kids that like, you know, spend all their waking seconds on virtual reality or in a certain video game or something like that. Or they'll have multiple headsets so that when one dies they already have another one charged so that they don't
You know what? I'll actually
spend
say
any
something.
time in the real world.
And so I
Yeah.
find
It's
just
wild.
being with kids of, you know, from 5th to 8th grade,
Mhm.
that they can't sit outside in nature. They don't know how to like look at the clouds, or they don't know how to observe.
They
the
don't
different
know how to be
flowers.
without technology. The technology's gotten so addicting and it's overpowering for the children's
So
brain.
what's the solution?
Putting some type of laws on when children would be able to have technology or computers, because
Like
it's
drinking
it's
ages,
it's
put
really debatable if it's
ages-
going to
right.
benefit a kid to get
That's
a computer
actually
before
smart.
the age of 16.
Oh, that's
Well,
smart.
it's true. Computers are like in a lot of ways more dangerous than a car.
Or
Think about it. You can order way more deadly stuff with a computer and do way more damage with a laptop.
that's
if you know how to
true.
use a laptop
than a
car.
And what it,
Yeah.
I
because
never
of
thought of
this
that.
virtual reality, it's actually impacting
Mhm.
the relationships with humans. Like
With reality
we-
itself.
right? Like
Some of these people
totally,
are
I
unable
agree
to
with you.
interact in reality. anymore.
That is a very.
And it's like,
that's a brilliant
doesn't
suggestion.
some of the blame have to fall on those technology companies that are trying to get people addicted? They're
That's
trying.
smart. So like instead
it's a
of
mind
banning
control.
TikTok, just ban that kids can be on, have those devices until they're a certain age.
Well, yeah, it would be like you get a driver's license, you could have a computer's license. It's really debatable if people should be allowed to have internet access before 16.
I think that's a good idea.
yeah, I
It's
think
brilliant. I
you're-
never thought
think
of
it's brilliant, and I think I
Well, society's
so.
already seeing the negative side effects of
Mhm.
kids having computers
Right.
too young, and it's only going to get way worse
So
than
that's
I like your
even
solution.
more reason why we want to get our kids' hands in the dirt,
the
get them out to
garden.
the farm, put them on a garden, have them observe the butterflies and the hummingbirds.
And the
I mean,
tortoise.
that's like, there has to be an advocate in the
Mhm.
world for that kind of experience too, because the balance is so important.
Mhm.
Like seriously, I live outside all the time, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's something that I just take for granted, but
Oh, no, I
I'm
love being outside.
totally outside.
What percentage of the day do you spend outside, Jeff?
I wouldn't
In
say it's
nature.
a crazy high percentage, but I try to go on at least one walk every day with my dog. I try to do two.
So are you spending more than an hour outside?
I'd say about an hour, but
That's not very much.
an hour a day.
What about you,
Most
Richard?
spend outside,
I spend a lot of time outside.
you know,
Mhm.
walking from restaurant to restaurant.
Yeah, from restaurant to restaurant.
Oh,
On the
what
patio.
nature.
You going on a hike?
Patio.
Oh,
I
you
go on-
going on a
The
hike?
beautiful
I go on a
nature of
hike, I go on a
Scottsdale
walk.
Road.
When you're not hiking, when are you outside?
With two different dogs I take care of.
Okay, yeah,
When Chet's busy, I take care of his dog,
yeah,
and I take care of Rachel's dog.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
I'm
so my
always
dog
spending
is
time-
spoiled. She goes on like 2 to 3 walks a day.
yeah.
She is very spoiled. So
That's nice.
let's say tomorrow when I want to plant a garden, would you do it raised? How would you do the garden?
It depends on where you live, and it depends on the quality of your soil. I mean, that's a big question, and
mhm.
it depends on your age. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so that the soil in
I don't
the
know about my
valley-
soil, so
The
is it better?
soil in the valley is
Mhm.
very different in different areas,
Mhm.
so that it just
I probably want to do a raised bed.
raised bed
Mm-hmm.
is easy on the back.
Okay.
Okay.
Raised bed,
Yeah.
easy on the
And
back.
Would
There-
you buy the soil to put in a raised bed, or where would
Yes.
you get that soil?
You would do both, is what I would
Yeah,
suggest.
yeah.
That you'd buy compost, you
Mhm.
might import some soil.
I'd want
and
organic
you
soil.
mix it. Organic soil is a tough one to find.
Really?
So yeah, it is. We actually went through
Really?
a lot of testing to get the garden at the school
Mm.
certified with organic
Well, yeah, to
soil.
get
Arizona's
certified
tough.
organic, like say you're a vineyard, that takes
Mhm.
5 years. before you can get certified organic.
For organic, okay.
To develop to.
But
forward
so I can't
agriculture.
buy like containers of organic soil for my.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
Okay,
You
that's
can
what I
find
wanna
it.
do.
Yeah, you can find it.
Speaking of
Yeah,
organic,
yeah,
the wine that we are drinking.
I was gonna say,
today
what are we
It's
drinking? It's
organic?
It's a
delicious.
Really?
lovely Coteau d'Arrois from en Provence in France. It's a lovely rosé, Dimont, and it's 100% organically grown.
Wow.
Lovely.
Can I have an
Good
And it's
size,
delicious.
Richard.
It is
Yeah,
delicious.
it's a
Yeah, it
lovely
is.
wine.
It's
I want to
nice.
take a picture of
It's
it.
light,
Trader
it's-
Joe's, $10.
The,
$10
the
for
color is
organic.
lovely too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Provence rosé, typical, yeah. You'll find that in Europe, France especially, in the wine industry, many more vineyards are now organic or biodynamic than are not.
Okay.
Yeah, which is good, and it's also happening more. I think that many of the vineyards, if not all or most of them in Arizona, or may not be certified organic, but they're definitely farming.
With those practices in mind.
Yes. You know,
So question,
sustainable, yeah.
you have 4 minutes left. What would be on your bucket list for your gardening, for spreading your message to the children? You have 4
Well-
minutes. Like what's on your, like give us 2 or 3 things that are on your bucket list
Okay.
for what you want to get.
What I think is important for us to reconnect with the land.
Yes.
Okay.
And how you want to save the planet.
Okay. So how I want to save the planet?
Yes.
Well, one is through education of the younger generation. I think
Okay.
it's really important that we
Crucial,
begin
yeah.
to have them connect with the natural world, okay? So
Okay.
that my teaching in the schools sort of brings that full circle for me as an activist, as a leader, as a passionate human being that wants to see humanity continue to exist. So
You're starting with the
Earth
children.
matters. Start with the children. Earth matters. Teach them about nutrition. Teach them about regenerative ag, healing the soil, the connectivity of the soil with their guts. Even the patterns in nature are the patterns in our body. If you look at a charred leaf and you look at how the roots in those leaves move, they move like our rivers. They move like the veins in our
That's
arms.
true.
So that to be able to just look at those patterns in nature and teach the next generation that we're connected,
I love it.
and that the flow of our rivers are connected to the leaf of a charred plant and connected to our veins. The print of your thumb is connected to the rings in a tree.
Yep.
I mean, those are things that we consciously have disconnected from in our world that need to be re-examined and reunited with our souls. I mean, it's so important.
And it starts with the children.
It starts with the children. I mean, because that's our hope. I mean, we as adults are sort of sedentary in our ways and not completely. I want to say it's going to be hard, and we need to shift the younger generation to take the torch.
And don't have kids if you're just gonna put an iPad in front of their face all day. And it's true though. You go out to eat at these restaurants, and there'll be these people out to eat with their kids, and each kid has their own iPad. They're so antisocial they can't even watch the same one. It's wild. Yeah.
It's so true.
But it's like, why even have kids if you're just gonna like be
Put 'em
like,
in
here,
the back. So
yeah.
I was one of these moms that wouldn't put a video screen in the back seat of the car.
Good.
Okay, I got rid of the TV when Zoe was 5. Oops, the TV blew up.
And I didn't
Yeah,
like
technology
my
should just be a treat.
Television.
Technology should just be a treat and a tool. It shouldn't be the center point
Addiction.
of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
So get
Right.
your kids
But
gardening.
it's becoming
Get
more
your
and more
kids
common.
outside.
Get
Get
them
them at nature.
outside,
We only have
get
a
'em
minute
out.
left.
Get them engaged with the natural world in a way that builds respect and stewardship. Teach them about how important agriculture is in the scheme of, climate action.
Take them to the
agriculture
beach.
is
In the
huge.
scheme of things, think about how valuable and important your time is and how limited our time is. And do you really want to think back when you're on your deathbed? Oh, I spent 80% of my life playing video games or in virtual reality or whatever it is. Like, no, you don't want that to be a big portion of what you
that's
did.
very
with your time.
productive.
Well, we have one more minute left.
No, it's sad. I know some
feel
younger people where they spend most of their free time playing video
saving the
games.
planet.
One
One
show at a time.
We
Get out and enjoy the earth.
Get out
Go
there.
hike.
Go hiking. Take
Connect
walks.
with Mother Earth. Connect with nature.
Pick up trash. Go to the beach. Take your
Commute.
kids to the